Admiral Krevdar stood in the command center of his massive warship, watching the strange signals coming from the far edge of space. The lights from his crystalline display cast rainbow colors across his hard, shell-like face. His long fingers, covered in natural armor, tapped against the metal surface as he waited for his team to figure out what the message meant. The Zephyrian Empire had been the strongest force in this part of the galaxy for over 200 years. Their ships were built from living crystal that could heal itself when damaged. Their soldiers moved as one mind, thinking and fighting together like parts of a single creature. No enemy had ever lasted more than a few weeks against them, sir. "We have finished working on the translation," said Communications Officer Velkin, his voice buzzing through the air like an angry insect. "The message comes from a planet they call Terra. The beings there call themselves humans." Krevdar moved closer to the display. The message was broken and hard to understand, but their computers had put the pieces together. At least, they thought. Bait had. "What does it say?" the Admiral asked. Velkin's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he read from his screen. "The translation says they declare war on all non-human species in the galaxy. They claim they will destroy anyone who is not like them. They say hostile forces are coming for all of us." The other officers in the room began clicking their mandibles together, which was how Zephyrians showed they were excited or angry. This small, unknown species was threatening the entire galaxy. It seemed impossible. Krevdar had seen this kind of thing before. Young civilizations sometimes got too confident when they first learned to travel between stars. They would make big threats and act tough until someone showed them how small they really were. It was always the same story. "Where is this Terra located?" he asked. "On the outer rim, sir, very far from any major trade routes. Our records show no previous contact with this species. They appear to be new to space travel." Krevdar laughed, a sound like grinding stone. New to space, and already declaring war on the galaxy. These humans must be either very brave or very stupid. He walked to the large window that showed the stars outside. His fleet of crystal ships floated nearby, each one capable of destroying entire cities. The Zephyrians had built their empire by being smart about war. They never used more force than needed, and they always gave their enemies a chance to surrender first. "Prepare the third strike fleet," he commanded. 12 ships should be enough to handle this situation. We will go to Terra and show these humans what happens when they threaten the Zephyrian Empire. His officers began sending orders throughout the ship. Soon, 12 of their finest warships would travel to this distant world and teach its people some manners. It would be over quickly, just like always, far across space. On a small research station orbiting a dying star, Dr. Jake Morrison was having the worst day of his career. The station's communication system had been badly damaged when space pirates attacked them 3 hours ago. Half his team was injured, and the other half was trying to keep their life support systems working. Jake was not a soldier or a hero. He was just a scientist who studied old stars to learn how they died. But right now, he was the only person who knew how to fix their radio equipment, and that made him the most important person on the station. "Come on, work," he said to himself as he connected to broken wires. Sparks flew from the damaged control panel, and he had to jump back to avoid getting burned. The pirates had left after taking what they wanted, but they had damaged the station so badly that it might not survive much longer. Jake and his team needed help, and they needed it fast. He tried the radio again. This time, it worked for a few seconds before cutting out. "Please, ... anyone receiving ... under attack. Need immediate assistance. Hostile forces approaching." The signal died again as another power coupling failed. Jake hit the side of the radio with his hand, hoping that might help somehow. "Please respond. Research Station Galileo's vent coordinates. Following. Pirates destroyed our engines." He did not know that his broken message was traveling much farther than he thought. The damaged equipment was sending his words and all directions, much stronger than normal. His desperate call for help was reaching parts of space where humans had never been before. Jake kept trying to fix the radio, not knowing that somewhere far away, an alien admiral was preparing for war because of his broken words. The message that was supposed to ask for help against pirates had been changed by the damaged equipment and bad translation into something much more dangerous. As Jake worked in the dim light of the failing station, the Zephyrian fleet began moving toward Earth, ready to teach humanity a lesson they would never forget. Neither side knew they were about to start the most important war in galactic history, all because of a misunderstood cry for help. Captain Lisa Warren was drinking her morning coffee when the alarms started screaming throughout the ship. She dropped her cup and ran to the bridge, where her crew was already at their stations, staring at the main screen with wide eyes. "Report," she called out as she jumped into her captain's chair. 12 unknown ships just appeared near the outer defense grid, said Lieutenant Commander Mike Rodriguez, his fingers flying over his control panel. They came out of some kind of space fold we've never seen before. Lisa looked at the screen and felt her heart skip a beat. The alien ships were beautiful in a scary way. They looked like they were made of living crystal that changed colors as she watched. Light seemed to bend around them, making it hard to see exactly where they ended, and space began. "Have they said anything?" she asked. "Nothing yet, Captain, but they're moving toward Earth in attack formation." Lisa had been in space for 15 years, and she had never seen anything like these ships. Humanity had been exploring the galaxy for decades, but they had never found proof of intelligent alien life, until now. "Try to contact them," she ordered. "Use all frequencies." Mike worked at his station for a few minutes, then looked up. "I'm getting something, Captain. It's coming through our universal translator, but the signal is weak." Suddenly, a cold voice filled the bridge. The words were in English, but they sounded wrong, like a machine was speaking them. "Primitive humans of Terra, you have made a grave error in challenging the Zephyrian Empire. Surrender now, and your deaths will be swift." Lisa felt her blood turn cold. She looked at her second-in-command, Commander Tom Bradley, who was staring at the screen with his mouth open. "Did they just threaten to kill us?" Tom asked quietly. "I think they did," Lisa replied. She stood up and walked closer to the communications station. "This is Captain Lisa Warren of the United Earthship Defiant. Unknown vessels, you are in violation of Terran space. You have 30 seconds to withdraw, or we will consider this an act of war." On his crystal ship, Admiral Krevitar could not believe what he was hearing. These small, weak creatures were threatening him. His scanners showed that human ships were made of simple metal, not the advanced materials his people used. They looked primitive and fragile. "How many ships do they have?" he asked his tactical officer. "Approximately 200 vessels in the immediate area, sir, but they are very small. Our single cruiser has more firepower than 10 of their largest ships." Krevtor's mandibles clicked together in amusement. 200 ships sounded like a lot, but they were just tiny metal boxes floating in space. His 12 crystal warships could destroy them all in minutes. "These humans think they can fight the Zephyrian Empire," he said to his crew. "Let us show them how wrong they are. Fire at will." The first blast of energy shot out from his lead ship like a bright blue lightning bolt. It was aimed at the largest human vessel, and Krevitar expected to see it explode into pieces. Instead, something amazing happened. The human ship moved out of the way so fast it seemed to disappear and reappear somewhere else. Then all the other human ships started moving at the same time, spreading out in patterns that made no sense to Krevtor's tactical computers. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. Their movement patterns do not match any known military doctrine. They appear to be ... improvising." Before Krevdar could respond, the human ships began to fire back, but their weapons were nothing like what he expected. Instead of energy beams, They shot solid objects that moved incredibly fast. His shields, which were designed to stop energy weapons, could not stop chunks of metal traveling at nearly the speed of light. The first kinetic projectile hit his lead cruiser like a hammer hitting glass. The crystal hull cracked, and air began rushing out into space. Then more projectiles hit, and more, until the beautiful ship was nothing but floating debris. Shields are useless against solid projectiles. His tactical officer shouted over the sound of alarms. They're using primitive kinetic weapons. But that was not the worst part. The humans also had nuclear weapons, but not the kind Krevdor had expected. These were small, dirty bombs that seemed designed to spread radiation and destroy electronics. His energy shields, which could stop the most powerful laser weapons in the galaxy, could not stop the electromagnetic pulse from the nuclear explosions. One by one, his ships lost power and began drifting helplessly in space. The humans swarmed around them like angry insects, firing again and again until the crystal hulls cracked and broke apart. Krevatar watched in horror as his proud fleet was destroyed by creatures he had thought were primitive. These humans fought like no species he had ever encountered. They did not follow the rules of civilized warfare. They used whatever worked, no matter how crude or violent. With his own ship failing around him, Krevtar managed to send one last message back to the Zephyrian Empire before his communication system died. Emergency transmission to High Command, he gasped into his radio. The humans are not what we expected. They fight like madmen, request immediate reinforcement. These humans ... they are not normal. Then his ship went dark, and Admiral Krevdar's war was over. General Patricia Hayes walked into the big underground room beneath the Pentagon where all the most important military leaders met. The room was filled with worried faces and the glow of computer screens showing information from across the galaxy. She had been awake for 36 hours straight, but her eyes were still sharp and focused. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, placing her hands on the big table in the center of the room. "Two of the alien ships escaped our defense grid and have returned to their home territory. Our long-range sensors are picking up something that should worry us all." She pressed a button, and the main screen showed a map of nearby space. Red dots were moving in patterns that looked like a huge storm approaching Earth. "They are gathering the largest fleet we have ever detected. Our computers estimate over 300 ships, some of them bigger than anything we saw in the first attack. They have weapons that our scientists say could crack planets in half." President David Chen sat at the head of the table, his face showing the weight of leading humanity during its first alien war. "How long do we have?" "Based on their movement patterns, maybe 2 weeks before they reach Earth," Patricia replied. "But sir, I have good news too. We have been preparing for this day for a very long time." She pressed another button, and the screen changed to show something that made everyone in the room sit up straighter. It was a massive ship unlike anything the public had ever seen, floating in a secret construction facility far from Earth. "Operation Prometheus has been running in secret for 20 years, Patricia explained. "When our deep space probes first detected signs of alien technology, we knew this day might come. We have been building ships and weapons that use technology most people think is impossible." President Chen leaned forward. "What are you telling me, General?" "I'm telling you that we are not the same species that got surprised by 12 crystal ships a few days ago. We are ready for war." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Supreme Commander Velanash stood in the command center of his flagship, watching his enormous fleet gather in space. The ship was so big that smaller vessels looked like insects flying around it. His crystal armor reflected the light from 300 warships, each one capable of destroying entire worlds. Velanash had never lost a battle in 40 years of service to the Zephyrian Empire. He had conquered civilizations that had existed for thousands of years. These humans, with their primitive metal ships and crude nuclear weapons, would be easy to destroy. "All ships report ready, Supreme Commander," said his tactical officer. "The planet crackers are charged and ready to fire." "Excellent," Valanash replied. "We will jump to their system, destroy their world, and end this foolishness before it spreads to other species. The galaxy will remember what happens to those who challenge the Empire." The massive fleet activated their hyperspace drives and disappeared from normal space, traveling faster than light toward the small blue world that had dared to fight back. But when they arrived at the coordinates where Earth should have been, Valanash saw something that made his blood freeze in his veins. Human ships were already waiting for them. Not the small fighters from the first battle, but enormous vessels that looked like floating cities made of dark metal. They were arranged in perfect battle formation, as if they had known exactly when and where the Zephyr fleet would arrive. "How is this possible?" Valanash demanded. "We traveled at maximum hyperspace velocity. How did they get here before us?" His science officer studied his instruments with confusion. "Sir, according to our sensors, these ships did not travel through hyperspace at all. They appear to have folded space itself to arrive here instantly." Before Valanash could respond, the human ships opened fire. But these were not the crude kinetic weapons from the first battle. These were weapons that seemed to break the laws of physics. One human ship fired something that looked like a tiny star. When it hit a Zephyrian cruiser, the entire ship simply vanished, as if it had never existed at all. Another ship fired beams of pure darkness that absorbed energy instead of giving it off, making Zephyrian shields useless. Gatskin Rebecca Stone stood on the bridge of her ship, the UES Retribution, watching the alien fleet through her command screens. Her ship was one of the new Prometheus-class dreadnoughts, built with technology that had been developed in secret for decades. "Target their command vessel," she ordered her weapons officer. "Time to show them what happens when you threaten our home." The antimatter torpedo that fired from her ship was small, no bigger than a car. But when it hit the Supreme Commander's flagship, it did not just explode. It created a tiny black hole that lasted for exactly 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, the artificial black hole pulled in 3 more Zephyrian ships, crushing them into atoms before disappearing. The flagship itself was gone completely, along with Supreme Commander Valanash and his crew of 10,000. Rebecca watched the destruction with cold satisfaction. The aliens had come to destroy Earth, but they had made a terrible mistake. They thought humans were prey. They were wrong. Humans were predators, and they had just declared hunting season on the Zephyrian Empire. Dr. Marcus Webb had not slept in 3 days. His crystal-like eyes were dim with exhaustion as he stared at the computer screens that covered every wall of his laboratory. As the Zephyrian Empire's best scientist who studied alien life, he had been given the most important job of his career. Figure out what these humans really were. The data he had collected made him feel sick to his stomach. Every piece of information about Earth and its people was worse than the last. He had sent research probes to study their planet from a safe distance, and what he found there should have been impossible. Now he stood in the Great Council Chamber, where the most powerful leaders of the Zephyrian Empire made decisions that affected billions of lives across dozens of worlds. The room was carved from a single piece of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Normally, Dr. Webb felt honored to speak here. Today, he felt like he was delivering a death sentence. "Honored counselors," he began, his voice shaking slightly, "we have made a terrible mistake. These humans are not like any species we have ever encountered. Their home planet is what we call a Class 12 death world." The chamber became completely silent. Every member of the council knew what that meant. Death worlds were planets so dangerous that no complex life should be able to survive there, much less become intelligent. Council leader Sethron, whose crystal armor marked him as the most senior member, leaned forward in his seat. "Surely you are mistaken, Dr. Webb. Complex life cannot evolve on a death world." "That is what we always believed," Webb replied. activating a holographic display that showed Earth floating in space. But look at this planet. The gravity is 3 times stronger than what most species can survive. The atmosphere contains gases that would poison most life forms. The weather includes storms that create electromagnetic fields strong enough to kill any of us instantly. The image changed to show Earth's surface. Volcanoes erupted, sending poisonous gas into the air. Hurricanes with winds that could knock down buildings swept across the oceans. Earthquakes split the ground open, and lightning strikes hit the surface thousands of times every minute. And yet, Webb continued, humans did not just survive on this world. They became the dominant species. But that is not the worst part. He pressed another control, and the display showed images of human history. Wars, battles, and conflicts that had lasted for thousands of years. They spent their entire history before space travel fighting each other. Not just small conflicts, but massive wars that killed millions of their own kind. They have been perfecting the art of killing for longer than our entire civilization has existed. Council leader Zethran's mandibles clicked nervously. But their technology appeared primitive when we first encountered them. That was our greatest error, Webb said, his voice now barely above a whisper. Their technology is not primitive. It is different. While we focused on energy weapons and crystal hulls, they focused on kinetic weapons and armor that can absorb energy attacks. While we built ships that could travel through hyperspace, they learned to fold space itself. The holographic display showed footage from the recent battles. Human ships moved in ways that defied everything the Zephyrians knew about space combat. Their weapons destroyed crystal hulls that should have been indestructible. Worse than that, Webb continued, they do not just adapt to new threats, they innovate during combat. Every battle teaches them something new. Our computers estimate that if this war continues, they will have studied our weapons and improved upon them within months. The council chamber erupted in clicks and buzzes as the members discussed this information. Finally, Zethran called for silence. What do you recommend, Dr. Webb? Immediate surrender, Webb replied without hesitation. We are not fighting a normal species. We are fighting evolution's perfect predator. Meanwhile, halfway across the galaxy, Admiral Jack Foster stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Vengeance. Through the large windows, he could see human ships spread out across space like a vast metal cloud. They were deep in Zephyrian territory now, liberating worlds that had been conquered by the Empire decades ago. Sir, reported Lieutenant Sarah Park from her station, we are receiving surrender requests from 17 different Zephyrian outposts. They are asking for terms. Jack did not look away from the window. His face was hard and cold, like stone carved by years of military service. Standard response, Lieutenant. They disarm completely, release any prisoners they are holding, and accept our occupation forces. No negotiations. Yes, sir, Sarah replied, then hesitated. Admiral, some of them are asking why we are not willing to talk about peace terms. Jack finally turned to look at her. His eyes were the eyes of a man who had read all the intelligence reports about what the Zephyrian Empire had done to other species over the past century. Because this is not about revenge, Lieutenant. This is about making sure that no alien species ever thinks they can attack Earth again. We are not just defending our home anymore. We are teaching the galaxy a lesson it will never forget. Outside the ship, more human vessels arrived through folded space, ready to continue their advance into enemy territory. The war was far from over. The great council chamber of the Zephyrian Empire had been built 1,000 years ago from a single piece of living crystal. It had seen the rise and fall of dozens of alien civilizations, witnessed the signing of peace treaties and declarations, of war that affected billions of lives, but it had never hosted a human being before today. Ambassador Robert Mitchell walked slowly into the chamber, his black diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the glowing crystal walls around him. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Behind him walked two human marines in full combat armor, their weapons clearly visible, but not drawn. The Zephyrian counselors watched nervously as the three humans approached the center of the room. Some of the aliens had never seen a human in person before. They were surprised by how normal the humans looked, how much like themselves they seemed. It was hard to believe that these ordinary-looking creatures had destroyed the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Council leader Zethrin stood up from his crystal throne, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of peace. His voice echoed through the chamber as he spoke. "Honored Ambassador Mitchell, we welcome you to our home world. We wish to formally end the hostilities between our species. The initial attack on your world was based on a translation error by our computers. We deeply regret this mistake and offer full reparations for any damage caused to your people." Robert Mitchell stopped walking and looked directly at Zethrin. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but somehow filled the entire chamber. No, the single word hung in the air like a physical thing. Every alien in the room felt their blood grow cold. They had expected negotiations, discussions, maybe even anger. They had not expected a simple, calm refusal. Robert continued speaking in the same quiet tone. "You attacked our homeworld based on a misunderstanding. When your first attack failed, you sent an even larger fleet to try to destroy our entire planet. Those are not the actions of a civilized species that made an honest mistake." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small electronic device, which he placed on the crystal podium in the center of the room. The device immediately began projecting a holographic document that filled the air above their heads. "These are our terms," Robert said. "They are not negotiable. You will immediately dismantle every planet-killing weapon in your arsenal. You will release every species you have conquered over the past century, and provide them with ships and resources to return to their home worlds. You will accept human observers on all your military vessels to make sure you follow these rules." Zethrin's mandibles began clicking together rapidly, which was a sign of extreme nervousness among his people. "Ambassador, surely we can discuss these terms. Perhaps we could reach a compromise that... No, Robert interrupted again. "There will be no discussion and no compromise. You will accept these terms exactly as written, or we will find someone else to accept them." "And if we refuse entirely?" asked another counselor from the back of the room. Robert smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator that had cornered its prey. "Then we continue this conversation with whoever replaces you." The threat was clear. If the current Zephyrian leadership would not accept peace on human terms, the humans would simply destroy them and find new leaders who would be more reasonable. Zethrin looked around the chamber at his fellow counselors. He could see the fear in their eyes. They all knew what the humans were capable of. The war had lasted only 6 months, but in that time, the mighty Zephyrian Empire had been reduced to a shadow of its former self. We accept your terms," he said finally. 6 months later, Captain Amy Rodriguez sat in the pilot's seat of her small scout ship as it traveled through space toward a distant star system. Her mission was simple, but important: make contact with other alien civilizations and deliver a message from humanity. Amy was young for a starship captain, only 32 years old, but she had been chosen for this mission because she was good at talking to people and making them feel comfortable. The message she carried was important for the future of the entire galaxy. Her ship's computer beeped softly, indicating that they had reached their destination. Through the front window, she could see a space station orbiting a large red planet. Her sensors showed that the station was inhabited by a species that called themselves the Vorlok Confederation. "Computer, open a channel to the station and begin transmitting our message," she ordered. The message was not very long, but it was designed to be very clear. It began with footage from the war against the Zephyrian Empire, showing human ships in battle and the destruction of alien fleets. Then came technical specifications of human weapons and defenses, proving that the footage was real. Finally, Amy's own voice spoke the most important part of the message. Greetings from humanity. We are new to this galaxy, but we are here to stay. We have no interest in conquering other worlds or ruling over other species. We want to trade, explore, and learn from our neighbors. However, any attempt to threaten human lives or territory will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. As the message transmitted across space, Amy smiled. Soon, every major civilization in the galaxy would know that humanity had arrived, and they would know the rules for dealing with Earth's children. In distant star systems, alien leaders who had ruled for thousands of years received the message and felt something they had not experienced in centuries: uncertainty about their place in the universe. The apex predators had arrived, and they came in peace, as long as you did not threaten them first.